dude, there's something special about starting a game with no name and no power at all, then watching that journey grow until you become a true legend. Today, we're talking about some of the best games where you start from nothing as an ordinary person and rise to an insanely powerful level. These are experiences that make you feel like every achievement was earned, that every step of the story was built by you, and that's exactly what makes these games so unforgettable.
We were, talking?
Kingdom Come: Deliverance. This game is the absolute king of this list for one simple reason. It gives you nothing for free. In almost every RPG, you are the chosen one or a legendary warrior in disguise. Here, you are Henry, the son of a blacksmith who can barely hold a sword, and if you try to face two guards at the same time early on, you'll end up dead in a ditch. Progression here isn't just about increasing numbers on a stat sheet, it's a real change in your skill as a player. At the beginning, you are illiterate, so you literally have to learn how to read to understand recipes and maps. Swords fighting is deliberately difficult and clumsy because Henry himself is clumsy. Every small victory, like finally managing to win a duel against a roadside bandit, brings a level of satisfaction I've rarely felt in other games. The medieval world of Bohemia is indifferent to your existence. No one respects you if you're dirty, hungry, or dressed in rags. Watching Henry evolve from a traumatized survivor into a knight who commands respect at court is one of the most honest and well-crafted journeys in video game history. It's a game that teaches you that a true legend isn't born ready, it's forged through sweat, mistakes, and persistence. Fallout New Vegas, you start the game as a courier who is shot in the head and buried in a shallow grave. It's hard to start any lower than that. What makes New Vegas a masterpiece of this theme is that your rise isn't based on divine superpowers, but on your ability to influence people and the factions around you. At the beginning, you're wandering the Mojave Desert with a rusty pistol, just trying to figure out who tried to kill you. But as you navigate the dirty politics of the New California Republic, Caesar's Legion, and the mysterious Mr. House, you realize that your character, that courier no one believed in, has become the pivot who will decide the future of the entire region. The freedom here is absurd. You can be a sharp-tongued diplomat, a stealthy survivor, or a psychopath with a grenade launcher. The game never forces you to be a hero. It allows you to build your reputation from scratch, step by step, in a world where every choice carries heavy consequences. Reaching the Vegas Strip after dozens of hours struggling through the desert is a moment that validates every bit of effort in your journey. Risen. Piranha Bytes are masters at making you feel like absolute trash at the beginning of a game, and Risen is one of the best examples of that. You wake up on a beach after a shipwreck with nothing but the clothes on your back, surrounded by a volcanic island that seems determined to devour you. What I love here is the rawness of exploration. There's no magical compass telling you where to go. If you wander into the wrong forest too early, a monster will end you in a second. The game forces you to observe your surroundings and understand the social hierarchy of the local factions. You have to choose a side and work twice as hard to prove your worth, whether it's to the bandits in the swamp or the mages in the monastery. The constant sense of danger makes every new piece of armor or every combat technique you learn feel like winning the lottery. It's an old-school RPG that isn't afraid to be punishing, but it richly rewards players who pay attention to details and learn how to manipulate the game's systems. Watching your character evolve from a lost castaway into a combat master who challenges the very foundations of that island is a growth experience that few modern games manage to replicate with such intensity. Baldur's Gate 3. Although you start with class abilities, in Baldur's Gate 3, your journey begins with a parasite in your head and a death sentence hanging over you.
You're just another prisoner on an alien ship, and no one in the world of Faerun knows or cares who you are. The beauty of this progression lies in its scale. You begin by solving small village problems and dealing with snot-nosed goblins, but the complexity of your decisions escalates in such a way that, before you realize it, the fate of entire cities and even planes of existence depends on your actions. The game gives you insanely creative tools to climb the ladder. You can be the charismatic leader who brings everyone together, or the shadowy manipulator who reaches the top by eliminating the competition. Each level you gain brings a tangible shift in your firepower, and the interactions with your companions, who also started out as messed up nobodies, make the rise to the top far more personal and memorable. It's an epic that never forgets its humble roots, making the story's climax carry immense emotional weight because you remember exactly how hard it was to leave that starting beach with nothing but a knife and a problem in your head. Outward is probably the game that takes the concept of being an ordinary person most seriously. You're not a legendary warrior, you're a citizen of a coastal village who starts the game with a blood debt and the risk of losing your own home. What makes this journey so striking is its logistical realism. You have to worry about temperature, hydration, and even the weight of what you carry. If you catch a cold from sleeping outdoors, your stamina plummets and you become easy prey. Magic here isn't just pressing a button, it requires rituals and preparation. There's no fast travel, so every expedition beyond the walls demands real travel planning. When you finally manage to cross a desert or a frozen mountain and return to civilization with better armor or a new skill, the sense of achievement is physical. You feel like you survived the world, not that the game simply let you through. It's a slow, sweaty progression that's extremely rewarding for those who want to feel the weight of every step in the snow.
GreedFall is a setting of colonization and Baroque fantasy where you begin as a diplomat from a decaying nation arriving on a mysterious island in search of a cure. At first, you're just a fish out of water, trying to navigate between factions that hate each other and a native culture that doesn't trust you. What makes this rise so interesting is that your power grows both through brute force and political influence. You start by mediating bar brawls and end up deciding the fate of gods and nations. The attribute system is tightly woven. You can become a master of science and firearms, or such a persuasive diplomat that you avoid entire wars through dialogue alone. Watching your character earn the respect, or fear, of the different tribes and religious orders is what gives the experience its special flavor. The game has that old-school RPG charm where the world reacts directly to your alliances, making you feel like you've gone from a simple bureaucratic envoy to the most influential figure in that new world.
Metro 2033. Artyom's journey is one of the most claustrophobic and human in the genre. You begin as a young man who has never left his home station, a safe place, but one without prospects. The moment you're forced to surface into a Moscow devastated by nuclear war is a brutal reality check. You're not an elite soldier. You are a frightened kid trying to understand how the world ended up that way. The scarcity of ammunition turns every shot into an agonizing decision, and your gas mask is your most precious possession. Watching Artyom grow through fear and silence, crossing tunnels infested with mutants and fascist and communist factions, is a masterclass in environmental storytelling. The value here lies in overcoming human fragility in the face of horror. When you reach the end of the line, you realize that the boy from the VDNKH station now carries the weight of the fate of what's left of humanity. It's a grim ascent, where your power is measured by your ability to endure the burden of a world that has already died.
Elex. I've already mentioned Piranha Bytes' style, but in Elex, the feeling of being a nobody is taken to the next level. You start as an elite commander who has lost everything, your powers, your faction, and your equipment. You're thrown into a world that blends laser technology with magic and swords, and everyone around you is stronger than you. The early levels are a lesson in humility. You'll run from many enemies before you're able to fight even one, but it's precisely this contrast that makes using the jetpack and high-tech weapons so satisfying later on. Character progression is strict and forces you to truly specialize in one of the survivor factions. Watching your transition from a starving exile into a warrior who regains control over the element Elex is one of the most well-structured power climbs I've ever played. The game doesn't forgive you, but if you understand the cruel politics of this world and know where to look for the right resources, your character's transformation into a legend of Magalan feels completely earned. Elden Ring. From Software perfected the idea of starting as a dull, unremarkable Tarnished, a being who shouldn't stand a chance against the demigods ruling the lands between. What makes this rise to power so memorable is the absence of a predefined path. You begin riding a beat-up horse staring at a massive castle on the horizon, and the game simply says, figure it out. There's no leveling system that carries you along. It's your perception and persistence that build the legend. Early on, a simple night in a clearing can destroy you in seconds, but after dozens of hours exploring forgotten dungeons and facing unimaginable horrors, you realize that your strength doesn't come only from your stats, but from the accumulated knowledge of that world. Watching your character, who started out mocked for having no maiden, defy the laws of existence itself and claim the Elden Throne is one of the most powerful transformations in the genre. The game respects your effort, turning every battle scar into another step toward divinity.
Oh, wait. They are.
Assassin's Creed 2. Unlike the first game, where you already start as a master assassin, here we witness the birth of an icon. Ezio Auditore begins as a young Florentine noble concerned only with street brawls and romantic conquests. The tragedy that destroys his family forces him to grow up overnight, and it's this journey of maturation that makes the game so special. You don't start out knowing how to use the hidden blade. You learn, make mistakes, and seek guidance. Watching Ezio evolve from an impulsive young man driven by revenge into a master mentor who understands the philosophy of the Order is a masterclass in character development. The Italian Renaissance provides the perfect backdrop for this growth as you move from the shadows of Florence's streets to influencing the fate of Rome and Venice. The emotional investment here is incredibly high because you feel like you're building the legacy of an ordinary man who was forced by circumstance to become a historical legend. It's a kind of growth that isn't just technical, but moral and philosophical as well. The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Skyrim's opening is an absolute classic. You're an anonymous prisoner in a cart, seconds away from losing your head. It doesn't get more irrelevant than that. What makes the journey unforgettable is the moment the game opens up and you realize that the frozen mountains of Skyrim place no limits on your ambition. You start by killing rats in basements and end up shouting dragons out of the sky. The beauty of starting as a nobody lies in the blank canvas it offers. You can become the greatest mage in the world, the leader of the thieves, or the most feared warrior of Nordic legend. Discovering that you are the Dragonborn is the catalyst, but what truly matters is how you shape that identity through hundreds of quests and explorations. The game gives you the entire world to carve your name into, transforming that penniless prisoner into the most important figure of an era of wars and prophecies. It's the ultimate power fantasy, built on a foundation of near infinite freedom.
You tied down the boat.
Green hell? You don't fight dragons or armies, you fight your own biology in one of the most hostile environments on the planet, the Amazon rainforest. You begin as a lost researcher, without a compass, without tools, and with no idea how to survive a single night in the jungle. The progression here is one of the most tactile I've ever experienced. Early on, you can die from a sip of dirty water or from a parasitic wound you don't know how to treat. But as you learn to identify plants, build thatched shelters, and craft your own stone weapons, your relationship with the forest changes. You stop being prey and become someone who understands the rules of that green hell. The protagonist's evolution isn't based on artificial experience points, but on your real knowledge of how to craft antidotes and maintain your mental sanity while isolation tries to break you. Watching your character transform into a master of the jungle, capable of hunting apex predators, is a journey of physical and psychological resilience that few games manage to portray with such raw intensity.
Not all that fancy. Oh, and there's a dirt floor.
Disco Elysium is without a doubt the most pathetic and fascinating beginning in the history of RPGs. You wake up in a trashed hotel room, suffering the worst hangover of your life and such deep amnesia that you can't even remember your own name, let alone that you're a detective sent to solve a murder. You are a walking failure in a decaying city called Revachol. What makes this rise so brilliant is that your growth isn't physical but mental and philosophical. You start as a nobody, despised by everyone, and through the internal dialogues of your own skills like logic, empathy, or instinct, you rebuild your identity. You decide whether you'll be a drunken philosopher, an exemplary cop, or a maniac chasing conspiracy theories. Your influence over the world grows as you unravel the mysteries of Martinez, proving that even a completely broken man can become the central axis of an immense political and social plot. It's a journey of self-discovery, where climbing out of a mental gutter is the greatest victory you can achieve. S.T.A.L.K.E.R. Shadow of Chernobyl. In the Chernobyl exclusion zone, you're just the marked one, an amnesiac survivor who was thrown off a truck full of corpses. You start with a mediocre pistol and a suit that barely protects you from radiation, surrounded by veterans who treat you like cannon fodder. The zone is an indifferent and cruel place, where an invisible anomaly or a mutant lurking in the bushes can end your story in a second. What makes this climb to the top so rewarding is that you earn every meter of territory with blood and caution. You learn to listen to the crackle of the Geiger counter, manage your bolts to detect anomalies, and understand the unstable politics of the stalker factions. When you finally acquire elite gear and begin infiltrating the deepest and most dangerous secrets near the reactor, you look back and realize that the frightened rookie has become a legend feared even by mutants. It's a kind of growth built on respect for danger and the ability to adapt in a place where most people don't last a week. Valheim. In Valheim, you begin your journey in the rawest way possible, falling from the sky, carried by a giant raven, and dropped into a Norse purgatory with absolutely nothing but a tattered tunic. You're not a legendary hero. You're a lost soul who must prove their worth to Odin, starting from absolute zero. What makes this rise so addictive is how the game rewards every small interaction with the environment. Early on, your biggest challenge is punching trees to gather wood and running from boars that can easily kill you. But the magic happens when you build your first wooden shack and light a campfire to protect yourself from the cold night. The sense of safety that flimsy roof gives you is the first step toward becoming a legend. Unlike other survival games that are purely punishing, in Valheim, progression is driven by your courage to explore increasingly dangerous biomes. When you defeat the first boss and gain the ability to mine, the game opens up in a spectacular way. You stop being a frightened castaway and begin transforming into a master builder and a navigator of unknown seas. Watching your tools evolve from chipped stone to bronze and then iron
brings a physical sense of satisfaction because you know how much sweat went into collecting every piece of ore in infested swamps or dark forests. Building a longship and setting sail into the ocean with no idea what lies beyond the horizon is the moment you realize that the nobody who once got beaten by boars is now writing their own Viking saga. It's an epic growth story, built on persistence and respect for the brutal nature of this world. What all these games have in common is their respect for the player's journey. They don't hand you the title of hero in the opening scene. They force you to bleed, to fail, and to learn the rules of the world so that when you finally reach the top, that achievement feels real. Starting as a nobody is what gives meaning to the end of the story. But I know this list could be much longer. The world of games is full of overcoming journeys that make us feel small at the beginning and gigantic by the end. So tell me in the comments, which game made you feel this evolution the most, from nothing to becoming a legend? I want to know which journey left a mark on your lives.